Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. This story bothered me, so I just want to talk about it. Let's see. Man told by city to stop having quote-unquote slumber parties in his house for homeless people. Let's not be coy. The slumber parties, what they mean is the guy was inviting people into his home, into his basement, because it was freezing cold in their city. And in being freezing cold, he was giving them somewhere to be. The city was not providing that particular service, so he himself stepped up as a good humanitarian and said, look, I don't want you into the cold, so I'm going to invite you into my basement. I'm going to give you coffee and whatever you want. No drugs are allowed, but you're free to sleep here due to the inclement weather. The city didn't like this. Let's read the story, and I want to talk about it. A Chicago man who's been helping the homeless get out of the cold by offering slumber parties at his home has been ordered to stop helping them. City officials are warning Greg Schiller to stop offering slumber parties in his basement to homeless people in his neighborhood, or else his house will be condemned. Schiller told NBC5 he started letting homeless people sleep in his unfinished basement last month during brutally cold nights in the city. He also offered food, warm drink, and a cot to sleep on as they watch movies. I could stay up all night with them and give them coffee and stuff and feed them, Schiller said. He says no drugs or alcohol were allowed inside the home and the homeless would stay there. Molly Center, a city spokesperson, said there were sleeping regulations for basements and Schiller basement doesn't meet those. While they appreciate those who would volunteer to provide additional resources in the community, Schiller's house does not comply with the codes and regulations that guard against potential dangers such as carbon monoxide poisoning, inadequate light and ventilation, and insufficient exits in event of a fire, the city said. Schiller said city officials and the police came to his house with a warrant Tuesday where they were told him the basement ceiling height was too low and the windows were too high and small. He originally had people sleep in the garage last winter, but moved down to the basement after EMTs had to come and help a man with a heart condition. Shut me down and said I have 24 hours to return my basement to storage and take down. I have several cots and sleeping bags for everybody or they'll condemn the house. Schiller said he made his house available as a shelter when local ones wasn't available. Now, the city looked at this and said, well, wait a minute. There are places that open up when it's freezing cold. So there are other places that these people can go. They don't necessarily have to go to this guy's house. If there were places that were available that these people know about, this guy wouldn't have had to open his house. He didn't do it just for shits and giggles. He did it because he felt like the world needed this particular sleeping arrangement. If there was no one around or nowhere around in the locale for those people to sleep, and he's offering them somewhere to sleep, explain to me, which is worse? Being in a situation where maybe there's carbon monoxide poisoning, maybe the ceiling heights are not high enough, as opposed to sleeping on the goddamn street. Your city has failed monstrously. You have people literally living on the streets, and you had a person who decided to be a good Samaritan, who said, look, I am not going to accept the fact that we're atomized. These are human beings. I am a human being, and I have resources and ability to help these other human beings. And he did. He did. It was an imperfect solution because there were no perfect solutions. Ultimately, your city, a responsibility of which is to make sure that the people of that city have the basic provisions that they need. In this particular case, you have people sleeping on the street. Yeah, I'm sleeping on the street. What this sounds like is we don't have the capacity to make sure that the people in this city are not living on the street even when it's bitterly cold outside. But we don't want you to do it either. We don't want you to do it either. Amazing. I live in Chesterfield. And yesterday, as I went to the store, there was person after person after person that was sleeping on the street with signs asking for food or assistance in some way. It is monstrously cold and bureaucratic to say that, look, we don't want you to help these people on the street because of some reason. And it is better for these people to be on the streets than it is for them to be in your house because your house has a short ceiling. It doesn't get enough light. You know what gets enough light? Being outside on the street. Fucking amazing. If your city has even one person that has $10 million, then your city has fundamentally failed. Your society has fundamentally failed. You can arrange your society in any way that you want, providing you're willing to deal with the consequences of that arrangement. There are people living on the street. Does your society have the resources to make sure that each and every person in that society is not sleeping on the street? That answer is yes. Does your society have the technical acumen and the resources to make sure that each person have access to the basics of necessities? The answer, of course, is yes. If you're not doing that, then that becomes a choice in your society, meaning your society decided that it was better for some people to have massive amounts of cash and other people to essentially live in the rough. Does the city believe, or does anyone else believe, that the people who they see sleeping on the street as they drive by, kind of fading into the woodwork or fading into the background like you're watching some kind of painting or something, do you believe that the cold is less, less painful to them? Or do you believe that this single digits outside affects them less or affects them in some different way? Do you believe that there's not a stigma associated with them not having a home and not having a job and living in the way that they do, begging for cash in order to get, from one point to the next? That is not an easy existence. That's my point. They're human beings. And just by virtue of being human beings, they have value. That value should be espoused in the law itself and the way that the city behaves and deals with these things. Meaning it should be unacceptable for an advanced society or for a rational society to allow elements of that society to fall through the cracks in a way that they end up sleeping on the street. And mind you, a lot of these people are veterans. Meaning a lot of these people went to serve their country because they believed that serving their country was some high honor and high service. The country leveraged their bravery to kill and murder and to put themselves at risk. And coming back to the country often damaged from post-traumatic stress disorder or damaged from the things that they've seen or damaged from some injury or wound that they've taken. The country turns its back and turns its attention to something else. Thank you for your service. Now you can go fuck yourself. Whether the person was a veteran or not, it should be unacceptable for us to allow people to fall through the cracks in this way. And it doesn't just affect those people because they're human beings. It's also this idea of what is the basic level of existence that you believe a human being should accept. And do we have the resources and technical acumen to make sure that there is a basic level of existence in our society? The answer is yes. That answer is yes. Everything else is subordinate to make sure that human beings have access to the things that they need, meaning even cash should be subordinate. Now that is not the case. There are other people that I guarantee you that are in Chicago with massive amounts of cash. If there is even one, then there is no reason that this person should be sleeping on the street. That cash is not real, that human being is. The city, the state, the government itself should not allow such a thing to take place, and it should be unacceptable in any city, in any locale, in this particular country. It's fucking repugnant. The city should be ashamed of itself. It should be absolutely ashamed of itself. I'll leave it at this. I'll put the story in. The story annoyed the shit out of me. I mean, come on. Look at the resource. The richest fucking country on the planet. They're bragging about the stock market hitting 25,000 and this guy is sleeping on a goddamn street. In San Francisco, they came up with the solution to, hey, let's use robots to kick these people out. And I understand it wasn't the city that came up with the solution, but SPCA came up with the solution. I'm just kind of making this point that why was the solution necessary at all? You force people into doing these imperfect solutions, either holding people in their houses or creating goddamn robots to kick human beings out of their sleeping place, meaning outside. Fix the problem. You wouldn't have people having to do this. You wouldn't have people having to be good Samaritans and allow people in the house if you function as a city in the way that you were supposed to function and make sure you don't have people sleeping rough. The city has fucking failed. It's fucking amazing. And our society, in general, in this case, have failed. The richest country on the goddamn planet. I don't understand why we think this is acceptable. Republican or Democrat, I don't understand why we think this is acceptable. Do you believe human beings have value or not? If you believe human beings have value, should that value be espoused in the laws and policies that govern us in this country, in this city, and the state? If there's one house that's empty, this should be unacceptable. And if there's no other responsibility for government, It should be that making sure that people have the very basic things that they need, and in those situations, sleeping rough. You understand that you are not separate and distinct from that person. There's certain skills and attributes that that person could supply to this society. That person could be paying taxes. That person, even from the level of crime. How do people behave when those people don't have the things that they need and those people need to struggle to survive? How do they behave? And can you blame them for behaving in that way when, like anybody else, putting in that particular position would do what they need to do in order to survive? All I'm saying is we have a country that's ensconced in poverty. At the same token, we have another end of the country that has massive amounts of wealth. That wealth is immensely subordinate to human beings and life. And in no way should that wealth be allowed if there's anybody else in this particular condition. That's my main point. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to beat a dead horse. Yeah, this bugs the shit out of me. This shouldn't take place. That's all I'm saying. There's no situation where this should be acceptable and this should take place. And the idea that the city is going to say, yeah, we don't want you to help, even though we're completely inept and inadequate in order to do this ourselves. It's fucking amazing. And mind you, we're cutting taxes on them. We're cutting taxes. We're cutting benefits. The budget that they passed, the Trump bill that they passed, giving trillions of dollars to the rich. Do you think that's going to help this case or make this case worse? Leave it at that. I don't want to beat a dead horse. Alright guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support through Patreon. Thanks guys.